Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, but we do have Charles Bishop getting up early this morning, catching a flight back in from Jackson, Mississippi. So if he dozes off on the show, please let him make it. Then we have the sports rap team that is Brian and AD. They'll give you some updates. They're feeling good as their team is winning, and we will do the shout-out cigars for those that got it done. Acknowledge some homecoming wins and some that did not do so well in their homecoming, and the rain fell as well. With that being said, let's bring the entire team in as we say, welcome to episode 727 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NEIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Cavil, along with my co-host today this morning is none other than Charles Bishop. He is in his bright red JSU, not even accent. They just showing out. I guess we have none other than Brian Fulford calling with the Rattlers. He get the call and win. Is that your first call in terms of a win?
It's the first win against a SWAC opponent, so I'll take it.
Okay.
That's right. 2-2.
I knew it was one of those, either first or and it came as a homecoming victory. Shout out to AD, who's doing some dancing with his Morehouse as they got a homecoming victory, and his Rattlers down the street, if you would, adjacent there, got the homecoming victory, as we said. So let me do the cigar smokes to you all. Shout out on the homecoming victory, which really adds to it. We had some other homecoming victories if we look at it. Mississippi Valley State, they won 49-0, and obviously we'll get into a class a little bit where they outbest Alcorn State that played Lincoln, California last week, 42-0. And guess what? Those two teams came up to play each other next week, as Brian did on the SWAC TV show yesterday, and broke that analysis down that you had to know that Valley and the coaching staff not only wanted to get the victory and play good, they wanted to make a little bit of a statement that they outbest Braves. Started out slow, 14-0, as Alcorn put up 21, but in the second half, you could tell that somebody was in the earphones and saying, "Hey man, we got some work to do. What y'all doing out there? And then let's see. Grambling with Arkansas Pine Bluff. It was not a homecoming, but shout out for Grambling. Give them cigar smoke. Texas
and
Southern.
Santora's on the screen saying what's good with us. So send him the proverbial virtual cigar.
Yes, Santoria, your cigar here for going to Pine Bluff and getting it done. Shout out to them, 20-16 in terms of that victory. Texas Southern, I was right here in Houston, Texas, as the Tigers had their homecoming, showed up, showed out, even though it was over at 7 o'clock. Because of Deuce, I didn't get to figure out how they were going to shut things down, so I can't tell you. I have to make some calls and see what happened there. But if homecoming was officially over at Texas Southern University at 7 o'clock. So I was intrigued about that. All I know while I was there, it sure was going on really well. Deuce does his Westbury Christian, and this is the week that they take their trip out. And, as 11-year-old, they had this thing is like not be the first one to go to sleep. So he was trying to do his thing, but he was a little bit sluggish. And this is intriguing. I got to get this out. I'm sorry for taking this additional time before we get into real time. But this is just the life of an HBCU father with a son that is into the HBCU sports coach and has to deal with his dad that does a show that's the dean of the college of a HBCU, College of Education, for those that don't recall or haven't known. And so he's all into this. He works with athletics. He gets treated very well, sweet talk, passes. So he works talking with the provost as if they're friends. He talks with the athletic director as if he's part of the working staff. Stephon knows him. He has a pass. He helps and works out. So he really, I'd amazing if he don't get a check at some point. But he decides that this is the first year, and G Boom is getting this because I hadn't even asked Mike or G Boom if they're okay with this. So he's getting this firsthand that he officially wants to come back to Prairie View's homecoming. He thinks he's ready, old enough to partake in this experience. He was born into this. His first trip out of the house, and I have a picture to prove it. Joe Clay keeps it on the screen. When he was 3 months, his first trip out, and I'm surprised that Faith allowed this to happen. I think she's still trying to figure out how I convinced her that. He went and actually stayed that Friday night before she got hold of her senses and came and got him that Saturday morning. He stayed in the RV, his first trip out. So now he's ready to return to that first adventure. So I said, I don't know if you're ready for this. We do big things. I mean, this is serious. You ready for this? And he said, "You're tired. You could make it Texas Southern, great homecoming, but a little different in terms of what goes down. And as far as I understand, there's no 7 o'clock curfew. It might be a music curfew, 12 o'clock, something like that. But he said, no, I was tired. I'll be ready. So I said, hey, we'll pack your clothes today, and we'll set them aside, and we'll be prepared, and we'll see by the end of the week how things go if you're going to be ready. So that's the talk there about this. So the last one I want to do before we get in there and get your thoughts is Prairie View. Prairie View went down and, well, let me do this one first. Tennessee State and Howard. Tennessee State, shout out to sneakershop.com, Brandon King. He was concerned about this matchup. He didn't think this Tigers would get it done, but they really stood up and pulled away and got it done from Howard, 24-7. So they got the victory up there at Tennessee State in Nashville. So Southern.
Told you, Brandon. I told you. Southern
had a chance to do their homecoming. And unlike everybody else that was able to find victory on their homecoming, unfortunately for them, they were taking on the Prairie View Panthers that lead the Western Division. And they could not get it done. And it rained. Prince type of rain on their head, and really before the end of the game when they pulled it out and went away, winning it, going away solidly, when it really looked like it was going to get ugly. So I guess you can give a shout out to Southern to make sure it didn't get too ugly until late. It rained all over their heads. That got to be tough for homecoming, not to get the victory. But shout out to the Panthers in charge cigars. So guys, as we're moving through this first segment, what are your thoughts on some of the big games this weekend? What stood out? I'm going with you first, Charles.
Let me start with what stood out for me, and I thought it was a very touching moment yesterday. And it's probably one of the only times I've seen something like this happen. Very unique thing happen. I want to give a cigar to a director for Marching 100, Shelby Chippen. That was huge yesterday. I believe linebacker went down, Aaron Jenkins went down. And they're playing a spiritual. They started playing a spiritual, and you could hear it in the background, and it was a very moving scene for him to go from motionless to getting on the cart. And I give credit to Jay and Tiffany yesterday on the broadcast because they are of this space. They were quiet, and you could hear that the Marching 100 playing that spiritual in the background while that young man was taken off the field, and it was a very cinematic moment. So it was. I get on bands all the time about kind of being in their band space and being in their band world, not being a part of the game. But that was
there as we get into
a moment yesterday where it was very, very much part of the football game.
I didn't catch that, but I do recall at the beginning you were saying that you had a shout out that you wanted to give FAMU, and I see why. Very appropriate or very well done, and it had to be something that was instinctual.
Very instinctual. Moment,
not something that you certainly want to plan. So I want to give love in terms of making that move. Shout out. Let me go to you, AD. What are your thoughts in terms of some of the scores of yesterday? What stood out to you? I think I know where you're going, but go ahead.
Doc, you were as you going through your monologue at the start. I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of the chatter in our chat rooms has been on the Division II level, while everybody was kind of like ho hum about our Division I teams, especially with the BI completely being off. A lot of homecoming blowouts and things like that. Not a lot of, let's be real, there were no sexy matchups on the FCS level yesterday. The hype and excitement, especially with the Benedict win over Edward Waters, everybody is spinning forward to next week in the SIAC when Benedict and Albany State face each other off, and people are trying to figure out the tiebreak formula for whoever loses that particular game. While we know clearly if Benedict beats Albany State has the tiebreaker over Kentucky State because of the head-to-head. That's cut and dry. That's the most basic tiebreak you can have. With Benedict and Kentucky State not going head up this year, it's going to be a lot of scoreboard watching and a lot of algorithms and compasses and slide rules trying to figure out who would own the tiebreaker between Benedict and Kentucky State. Should those two wind up tied with each other? And I almost hate, I hope I don't do the announcers jinx. But did y'all see what Morehouse is at in the standings in the SIAC? Anybody?
Yes, I did.
Has anybody seen it?
Spot? Yes.
Number 5 spot. Number 5 because Edward Waters owns the tiebreak over us. So that's what makes us number 5, even though we may be listed as number 4. But in Atlanta, who'd have thunk it at this point in time that Morehouse would be the team over 500 and Clark Atlanta would be the one win team in conference of the two schools in Atlanta? Well, let me rephrase that. Who would have thunk that but me? Because everybody on this panel laughed at me in July when I told y'all about the possibilities. Everybody associated with this network thought I had been smoking before I went into those conversations that we had at the various media days that we have. Y'all need to call me.
That is true.
Drew Nostradamus. Nostradamus.
You call it. You're correct. I will not say publicly what you said in September though. But that's the cleaner. That is that's family talk. But we will give you credit in terms of what you said in July and August. With that being said,
I'm only the good part. When you get one right, you gotta wear it.
You gotta take it out. That's why I said we're not gonna say the other part.
I ain't gonna talk about the other part.
Let it be. You win. Since you shouted out the SIAC appropriately, we'll go a deep dive like we do on Tuesday, and it'll be interesting to see can Morehouse even get some votes in terms of 3-game win streak based on what everybody else is doing. And then in the CIAA, looks like it's a 3-team race. Somebody sneaking in the back a little bit, but Fayetteville State, Virginia Union, and Johnson C. Smith. Be interesting to see as they start to jockey, potentially see what tiebreak rules are. So it's going to be fascinating. It'll be interesting in terms of Johnson C. Smith. Can they find a way to get over the hump as they were just on the edge looking into it? Obviously, they had that earlier loss, but they've won since then, so they're putting themselves in prime position. Fayetteville State is right there, and they do match up. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. With that being said, let me go to Brian and let him get the last part of this first segment in terms of what was big to him in terms of the scores this weekend.
Well, let me add to what Charles started and where he started it. Total Praise was the name of the song that the Marching 100 was playing. And I will tell you, in that moment, that was such a surreal moment because FAMU had just grabbed this lead and the momentum in the building was electric. And so from that first play or on that play for that injury to occur, and I didn't know who it was at first, but I could see two things. One, that the player was laid out and he wasn't moving. He was still. And so instantly I could see both medical staffs from Alcorn State and FAMU rushing. And for a split second, I could see as I'm looking in my binoculars, I could see one of the officials kind of tapping his head and signaling for the cart. I mean, quickly. And right at that moment, the 100 broke into Total Praise. And when we found out, I mean, it took really, we went to a commercial break. And by the time we came out of the commercial break, we could see, because we saw a woman come out and she had number 45 on, and we knew at that moment it was Nayron Jenkins. And I mean, if anyone in Rattler Nation, he is such an outstanding young man. He's a Fellowship of Christian athlete. He went on a mission trip, and that was when the ONG, first talked to him, met him, and he's been a friend of ours. And every time I get to a game and see him, he daps us up. And I mean, we talk to him. I mean, he's a great young man, one of the leaders, not only in that locker room and team, but among the student athletes at FAMU. And so what was great about that moment is as that music is playing and people, you just know people are praying, and he starts to move his leg, and then he starts to get up. I mean, literally, the young man who probably got a concussion. I mean, I stayed at a Holiday Inn on Friday, but as best as I can tell, he probably suffered some kind of concussion-related injury because he was moving out. But he got up and he walked. He walked to the cart. I mean, he did not want to stay down, and he was affected. And his mom was there. I believe that was his mom. And it was a moving moment. So thanks for bringing it up, Charles. And yes, total props to the Marching 100 for being in the moment and recognizing that moment. And so, I mean, it was spirits were high, spirits were lifted, all praise. And we hope that Nayron is good, moving forward as he recovers from that. So I just wanted to quickly say that. And
it is Sunday morning, and we do our show.
I mean,
everybody at the church, so praise.
It was so completely
ahead,
unique. Yeah, it was so completely unique. And like I said, I give props to Jay and Tiffany because they were quiet in that moment, and it was a very cinematic thing to even look at it from a broadcast perspective. So it was very moving. I'll say it that way.
And trying to do that from a radio perspective, because the one thing you don't want to do in radio is just be quiet. Because I mean, Jay and Tiff have that visual where they can do that, and so I'm trying to quietly describe to people what's happening, but slowly, to give people a chance to kind of absorb not only the background sound of the 100 playing, but everything that is happening as the cart is coming on the field, and then him actually getting off the ground and walk. So I mean that was different, challenging, but I mean I'm just glad that Nayron was able to get up and walk and actually get onto the cart on his own. And so it's a real moment.
Good job. Today's episode, very well said by everybody in regards to that. I'm glad, as we said, praising that it seems to be working out, certainly at that moment. Great observation in terms of the HBCU sports culture, tying in the bands. They've had some tough, challenging frameworks of late, but to see why we are so fascinated and in love with the bands is appropriate when they get it right, for sure. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting, educational consulting, and data analytics. And wanted to shout out a little bit to the shirt here, Charles, as we get it done, representing the SWAC. You won't get these anywhere. This is all the alpha chapters, the founding dates in terms of the chapters, as well as the institution for all 12 SWAC members. And so some love goes there. Got some other work I want to do on it on the shoulders in terms of former members and founding members. We'll get out that and find a way to get some love to the MEAC as well. So this is going to be a true piece of art. Let's take our first break, come back on the other side. We'll get into the top 7. We'll talk about what the top 7 actually did. This was a really light weekend, so you'll see a lot of games with open dates. But we'll move in terms of some accolades and do the NL Cavil helmet sticker. So we'll go from giving the guard shout outs to the teams to individual players that will get recognition in the helmet stickers. And then, unfortunately, we have to go through Charles. Well, for some, it's probably fortunate, and others maybe unfortunate. We'll go to Charles' weekly ledge talk. And so you will see Charles on the ledge, see if you all agree or disagree. With that, we'll be right back after our first break.
Hello, my name is Jeremiah Williams, a defensive lineman, and I am a proud member of Jackson State University Tigers football team. Me and my team are visiting Las Vegas, Nevada for the HBCU Las Vegas Classic. We would love to dine at Chick-fil-A located at 9830 West Flamingo Road. I encourage you to do the same for great food, fantastic dining experience. The owner and operator, Ron Peterson, a graduate of Prairie View A&M University, will be excited to have you as a guest. Go Tigers, go SWAC, and eat more chicken.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it.
ESPN Events presents Red Lobster Band of the Year, a title reserved for elite HBCU marching bands. A season-long competition that culminates in Atlanta on Friday, December 12th. Drum majors, percussion, drill, auxiliaries, musicality. All aspects will be examined by the toughest judges in the world of college bands. 4 will qualify for the big stage, where national champions will be crowned. Follow us on social media for rankings updates throughout the season. And join us in Atlanta on December 12th for event and ticket information. Visit bandoftheyear.com.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU Image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna love, and who the ball, So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I also want to give a little shout out before we get into the scores of the week to the commissioner of the SWAC, Southwestern Athletic Conference, Dr. Charles McCullen. And in terms of, I told you, as the college education dean, I have Associate Dean, Dr. Ingrid Haynes Traylor. She was honored by HBCU Excellence. So my Friday was busy after a big day celebrating with the leadership team for homecoming and providing a spread for them for the hard work they've done, and then allowing them to make sure that they're appreciated for homecoming, particularly some alums that came in, graduates of college education. We did some acknowledgement and fed them in terms of that before everybody was taking advantage of the festivities. If you're familiar or not familiar with Texas Southern, we sit right there in the main quarter, right off of Tiger Walk, across from the open plot there, where the famous clock is out there, and they turn that into a open gathering where you have the food trucks as well as the young organizations are out there celebrating under a huge tent, and they're out there selling the raised profits for their organization. So folks take big pride. They had a concert during that period of time too. So a lot was going on in terms of what that looks like. But that evening, I'm catching lifts, share rides, going to one place, going to Galleria, as you are familiar with this, Charles, to see one in terms of honor. Dr. Ingrid, as I said, Haynes Trailer with the HBCU Excellence, where they're raising funds and scholarships for HBCU students. So that was magnificent. Then I take a share ride over from there to get back downtown area to make sure I'm able to acknowledge those Texas Southern Athletic Hall of Famers that were inducted, as Dr. Kevin Granger reinstituted the Hall of Fame. And so one of the honorees is the commissioner, Charles, in terms of his time and what he did at Texas Southern University, bringing them back to one of the highest heights they've had in terms of their success, including winning all sports trophy during that time, championships, multiple sports, particularly in basketball. But he was honored as he was recognized in the Hall of Fame, in his first Hall of Fame, oddly enough. Which you would think he's going to have many more to come, various levels, but to be able to share and see his family, obviously his wife, daughter, 2 sons, are able to get back. His cousin was there. His best friend, his line brother, member of Kappa Alpha Psi. Obviously, don't want to talk about them too much, but good brothers, just kidding there, as they do their thing, and they were out there recognizing him. So I just wanted to recognize and acknowledge him, a bright spot in terms of what he was getting done. And then obviously he was recognized again during the game at Saturday. So good stuff there in terms of what that looks like. Let's get into these scores. Since I said we didn't have an open, I thought I'd add a little bit to make sure we can stretch out the segment. But let's pull up the scores that took place yesterday. As I said, we will honor the helmet sticker, if you would, a Big Ben Cavil, Big Ben Award. You all know what this means to me and all of us as we do this annually over the last 7 years. He played in the SWAC, in the creation in that first decade in 1920, specifically playing in 1925 to 1929. Pledgee of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity during his time at Wiley College, SWAC All-American, National Black College Champion, multiple times over champion of the SWAC for Wiley University fullback. Started the first year as we honored 100 years of the State Fair Classic. He played in that inaugural event. So big time and able to come across this information and create an award honoring Big for the family. So just saying kudos. We'll get them helmet stickers out. Obviously, the award goes to those that are connected with the state of Texas, either played high school football here, went to a HBCU, or from out of state, but actually plays for a HBCU football team in the state of Texas. With that being said, let's go to the next one and get into what took place in week 7. You see your top 7: Delaware State Hornets, Texas Southern at 6, South Carolina State at 5, Prairie View A&M at 4, Alabama State at 3, North Carolina Central at 2, Jackson State Tigers, after a big victory of Alabama State previous weekend, were number 1 and remain and gaining votes after last week. But we'll see what that means in segment 3, where the top 7 is. But let's look at those scores from these top 7s in this segment. In that first one, we have Jackson State, and this is from Major Division Week 7. They were open, as we said, as the number 1 team. They still remain obviously at 5-1 team, and in terms of what they got done there as they continue to move forward. Let's get into number 2. Number 2 was Alabama State at that time. They were 4-2, 2-1. They changed spots in terms of being 3 this previous weekend. But number 3 was open, who's actually number 2, 5-2 North Carolina Central. Then I'll have a date when we finally get in the game, when we get to number 4, which is Prairie View A&M going on the road for a homecoming game against Southern. They win 24-3. Obviously, we've seen a lot of scoring, but what we continue to learn about the Panthers is the defense continues to be the standard. If not with the Panthers, certainly in the Western Division, but maybe in the SWAC. They defeat Southern as they improve to 5-2, 4-0. Would say they have a grip on the Western Division, but there's another Texas team that is chasing them. But they go back to the number 4 with Southern. Southern falls 1-6, 0-3. The only reason I wanted to make sure I get that in the finals 24-3. With that being said, number 5, as you were just showing, South Carolina State stay at 4-3. And they start conference race. We finally get to talk about MEAC conference games today as we get in some good matchups to start it off. And we have a top 7 matchup to kick things off in the MEAC, talking about that. But the Bulldogs had an open date as they get prepared to get into conference play. At number 6, we had Texas Southern. They took on Lynchburg, Virginia Lynchburg, and did what you're supposed to do to an opponent like Lynchburg coming in. They went 61-10, really controlled the game throughout. You could tell they didn't want to do a lot of fasting, wanted to do some things to see where they are, and they ran the ball a lot of that game and were able to really put their will in there, or they score. Could have been worse than that if you think about it. But big plays, kickoffs, punt returns, all that. They did what they're supposed to do in that matchup and certainly made sure the Tiger faithful were happy. They improved to 4-3, 3-1 as we talk about the Texas schools over Lynchburg moving forward. I will say this about Texas teams. They are at the top of the Western Division. We hadn't seen this since 2009, Charles.
Wow.
15 years ago to date, when Prairie View finished 1st, Texas Southern finished 7th. That was under Dr. Henry Frazier III, when they ultimately, with KJ Black, won a championship. Texas Southern in 2010 came back and won their championship under the legendary coach, getting it done in that matchup. But that's the last time you've seen those two teams in 2009 finish the season 15 years ago. So interesting note that I thought y'all might add, particularly with number 7 being open. Delaware State, speaking of Delaware State, we'll see where they stay in the top 7 with a couple of teams winning and losing last week. Let's see what that looks like in the next segment. But before we get there, let me go to you, Charles. As we go this, we'll start with you in terms of your thoughts on the top 7. Obviously, you can give your helmet sticker. We'll save the ledge after we talk to everybody about the helmet stickers and their thoughts on these matchups.
Well, I think there were really no surprises with regards to yesterday. We thought Prairie View was the better team going into that game, and they proved it. It was a very efficient outing for Prairie View. And I keep saying this week in, week out. That is a physical football team, and we saw that physicality on display yesterday against Southern. And in a lot of ways, I keep saying this, they remind me of Jackson State last year, where they just keep little by little getting better and better and better each week, and you can see them, I guess, gelling behind their head coach week after week after week after week. So impressive win yesterday on Southern's homecoming. And my helmet sticker actually goes to the defensive side of the ball, Trevor Randall. They kept calling his name yesterday. He had 12 tackles, 5 solos, 7 assists. But, you know, one of those guys who week in, week out, he's in the middle of the action everywhere for Prairie View. So I want to definitely give him his props today as a person to keep an eye out on with regards to this Prairie View defense week in, week out.
Good call on the helmet sticker. Big Ben again. Let me go to you, Brian. Where are you going with your helmet sticker for this past week? And thoughts, any additional thoughts that you want to talk about in terms of the top 7 matchups? Not a lot of games to speak from, but hey.
No, not a lot, but I got to give props to Prairie View for bringing home as part of my 4-team HBCU parlay
Parlay.
FAMU, Prairie View, Tennessee State, and UAPB plus the 8 points at home. So shout out to my guy Keith from Things Up Podcast for helping me out with that one. But yes, I had faith in Tennessee State at homecoming, unlike some other people that I know. But anyway, my helmet sticker goes to. I almost got the outright win with UAPB, but the helmet sticker goes to a young man, and Ben Cavil Sr. would love this young man, Trey Bradford from Dallas, Texas. You know, Doc, it's fun. I'm starting to learn more about these young men from the state of Texas as I continue to find guys to give helmet stickers to. So shout out to Trey Bradford, scored a 3-yard touchdown run to put Grambling up 20-16 with 142 in the fourth quarter, capping off a 13-play, 65-yard drive for Grambling. I mean, you talk about pulling a team off the ledge. Oh, my goodness. What would the state of Louisiana be like had that score held and UAPB beat Grambling? Ooh. You know, it's already bad down in the southern part of the state. But, yeah, Trey Bradford, 25 carries, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. So shout out to Trey Bradford, Ben Cavil's helmet sticker from me, young man from Dallas, Texas.
Oh, nice one. And had the Texas ties. Great job, bro. Way to, what they say in class. Way to pay attention, man. You get the AD Drew, what direction you going? Obviously, as we said for this segment, it doesn't necessarily have to go to a player in Texas. You can give it to anybody, but you do get the extra accolades when you're able to figure it out. So shout out to Brian. AD Drew, what's on your mind?
I'm gonna go to FAMU Alcorn. I don't think anybody's real this, and we rag on FAMU season this year because it has not been pretty. But I don't know if anybody has actually done the math. FAMU damn near controls its own destiny in the SWAC East.
That's correct. I told
they
everybody.
are 1-1 now. Currently, they have Jackson State still on their schedule. If FAMU could figure out how to win out,
and they got them at home now.
I wasn't gonna throw that in, but if FAMU could figure out how to win out, they would potentially create a 3-way tie between FAMU, Jackson State, and Alabama State, where we do the round robin, where ABB, BBC, and CBA. You know how we have to do all that stuff. I know Charles don't want to hear that, but you have to bring it up just to keep the conversation going and keep a little hope alive down in Tallahassee, Florida. So my thing is,
we do have.
Let's not count the Rattlers out yet. Now, we loss from counting them out. Let's be real. Let's keep it in perspective. But until that loss happens, then FAMU is still in the race.
Oh, that Alcorn win did all that, huh?
Yeah.
It really did.
Yes, it did.
Actually, the worst thing that could happen is actually a 3-way tie.
That's what I said.
FAMU was rooting for is actually another Alabama State loss. And we'll talk about more of this in the third segment because the West is actually going to be decided in a lot of ways by Alabama.
Yeah.
By the schools in Alabama. But I want to save that for the last segment as we start talking about matchups and looking forward where it really gets interesting. But to your point, the East is going to have a lot to do with what takes place in the state of Florida. Even if it's Jackson, it's Florida, the state of Florida that's going to determine that Jackson gets to what they want to do is stay at home to get it done, oddly enough. So it's interesting how this in Texas, we used to talk about this basketball season for about a decade. Everything
Texas two-step.
Now seems like they finally putting in football.
The beach
and
badge.
While Mississippi is the king of football, as a lot of folks will remind you in terms of per capita, and they certainly wear their crown proudly, the state of Florida will have at least something to say about that and what that looks like from Alabama looking at in the state of Texas. But little tease in terms of keep people interested in the football season while things look like it's separated. But we got to do this before we move on. Charles, the ledge. Who's on the ledge?
Yeah, I think Roman Bates all but confirmed yesterday. Pretty much what we're all thinking. In terms of not only on the ledge but off the ledge. That was pretty proven in terms of him stepping up and taking the mic yesterday. But yeah, I just well, in all seriousness, hate that for what's going on down there on the bluff in terms of just where the program is right now. So you just want to see what decision that they're going to make going forward with regards to where Southern football is right now. But it's pretty tough to watch right now, and I can understand where their fan base is because I was there not that long ago. I was there when there was a constant coaching change and the program was in disarray, and it was just very, very painful to watch Jackson State football. So there's light at the end of the tunnel if you know how to get there.
Good points. I was wondering how you were going to sell it in because I didn't know if that was a little dig or not. Obviously, we don't wish anything in terms of the coaches and the coaching staff, a lot of families involved, what that looks like. Right. Coming from Jackson State, talking about Southern, I was like, that's fascinating to hear that perspective. But you did rational out the fact that you were in it as a Jackson State fan. Similar to that, and a lot of folks now, a Texas Southern fan, you've seen that. From this side there also.
I took a lot of advice in terms of what was wrong with Jackson State's program back then. I remember that, and things kind of come full circle. So,
yeah. Drew, anybody on the ledge quickly?
Anybody else on the ledge?
Yes.
How about let's look down to Lawrence, Mississippi.
Yeah, I was wondering Charles was gonna go there.
With those all
that was the other one. Yeah, Joe Morton is the name of your new head coach, basketball wise. Yeah, so comes from Florida State. So, and if you need it, you can go to SWAC TV. You can watch the basketball media day. It's archived. So
yeah. And Doc, I didn't give a chance.
has it archived, and we'll put it out in December. Some interviews you had too to add on to Charles, because he makes a great point. You might need to get familiar with your basketball coach.
Yeah, I didn't give a chance to get my helmet stickers also, so let me go ahead and give those out, Dr. Cavil. While I could give one, and I give my helmet stickers on the D2 level, I could give another one to Curtis Allen, who had another 208 yards, but I'm not going to give it to him. I need to do 2 helmet stickers, Dr. Cavil. Mm-hmm. One is to the punter from Morehouse, Survey Spurrell, on a 4th and 27 in Morehouse's own territory. He takes a bobbled snap, a bad snap that he does not handle cleanly, picks up the ball, scampers all the way to his right, cuts back all the way across the field to his left for a 30-yard run for a first down on a 4th and 27. And y'all say kickers are not athletes. That scamper led to the drive that led to the first touchdown for the Morehouse Maroon Tigers. So I have to give the helmet sticker to a kicker, a punter of all people, for that courageous run. And number 2, Dr. Cavil, and this is an honorary helmet sticker to everybody. After 2 weeks of coming on this show, talking about incidents at all these different homecomings, we had as many homecomings yesterday as we have had combined these first 2 weeks. And to my knowledge, there have not been any major incidents reported. So that helmet sticker goes out to the total HBCU diaspora who attended homecoming on yesterday.
Good one. Brian, you got a ledge?
Nope, I'm holding people off of it though. I tell you, even after a win, I tell you, even after a win, there's people still complaining, and I'm like, can we enjoy the win without?
It's homecoming. You're right. Let us please.
Yeah, but
I agree with you.
Okay.
Come on, don't do that to Charles. Charles already got accosted by a coach after week 1. After a win, you cannot be on the ledge. You get to the same pace, save it for another week. Just hold it back. Good job, Brian. Well stated. Let's take Second break, come back on the other side as we're giving you additional minutes of entertainment, but we'll move through this. Let's get into the next segment where we'll unveil week number 8's top 7 and see what it looks like. I can tease it out. I'm not sure there's a lot of changes, but maybe some different ones in the receiving votes. With that being said, let's take our next break and come back on the other side.
Hello, my name is Nick Howard. I'm a wide receiver and a proud member of the Grambling State Football Tigers football team. When I and my team are visiting Las Vegas, Nevada for the HBCU Las Vegas Classic, we would love to dine at Chick-fil-A located at 9830 West Flamingo Road. I encourage you to do the same for great food and a fantastic dining experience. The owner and operator, Ron Peterson, a graduate from Prairie View A&M University, will be excited to have you as a guest. Go Tigers, go Sweat, and eat more chicken.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it.
Greetings, Panthers. My name is Roland Austin, and I'm one of the directors at the 1876 Athletic Foundation. The 1876 Athletic Foundation was formed to promote the success of all 343 student athletes. Our overall goal is to fund scholarships for all of our student athletes. We ask that you help us in achieving this goal by donating to the 1876 Athletic Foundation via the QR code below or 1876.foundation. Your generous donation will help us continue to assist the needs of all of our Panther athletes. Thanks, and go Panthers.
ESPN Events presents Red Lobster Band of the Year, a title reserved for elite HBCU marching bands. A season-long competition that culminates in Atlanta on Friday, December 12th. Drum majors, percussion, drill, auxiliaries, musicality. All aspects will be examined by the toughest judges in the world of college bands. 4 will qualify for the big stage, where national champions will be crowned. Follow us on social media for rankings updates throughout the season. And join us in Atlanta on December 12th. For event and ticket information, visit bandoftheyear.com.
Compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, yeah, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop, Brian Fulford, and AD Drew. Let's get into the top 7 without further ado and see what looks like in week 8 and see what that means for some matchup games in our last segment. This is top 7 for week 9 as things keep chugging. 10, 26, 20, 25. Wow. The season moves along. With that being said, let's get into, as we look at it, the top. Let's look at those dropping out this week. As I kind of alluded to, nobody drops out in terms of week number 8 as we have here. Let's get in those receiving votes. Bethune-Cookman stays right where they are as the top team outside looking in. 3 and 4 on the season, 2 and 1, 148 points. They were open, but they have a big matchup coming up next weekend. At number 9, essentially, just outside, second team receiving votes is Alabama A&M Bulldogs, 4 and 3, 1 and 2. Oh, they have a little game called the Mac City Classic that they were open and getting ready for against Alabama State Hornets, who are in the top 7. So it'd be fascinating to see what that looks like when we talk about that matchup. Currently, A&M is sitting at 4 and 3, 1 and 2 in the conference race. Would make a huge statement in terms of the season and set stuff off in terms of Alabama State's trying to figure out how do they stay in the race. This would essentially eliminate both teams, even with the Bulldogs' victory. Grambling State Tigers coming from maybe on the ledge to being in top 10, essentially receiving votes. Best team out there outside of the top 7. They improved to 4 and 3. More importantly, in terms of the conference race, they get a big victory on the road against Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions as they improve to 4 and 3. As I said, and 1 and 2 in terms of the conference race, 113 points. Just sneaking in receiving votes, those 3 outside of the top 7. Let's get into the top 7 then and see what that looks like. As you could tell, nobody dropped out, so that means everybody stays in the top 7. But let's see if there are any changes from what that looks like in terms of the top 7. At number 7, we have Delaware State Hornets. 4 and 3, start conference race, and they have a matchup with another top 7. I'll get that when we get to that top 7 team, but Delaware State surprised a lot of folks, playing some good football. Certainly are able to do it offensively and particularly running the ball. 150 points as they stay in the 7th spot. Moving us to number 6, Texas Southern Tigers are at 4-3, 3-1, 163 points as they are in the 6th spot, getting things done there. Texas Southern Tigers, one of the 2 top Texas teams in the top 7. Let's continue to move forward in terms of number 5. At number 5, you have the South Carolina State Bulldogs sit at 4-3. They were open as they prepared to get in MEAC play, 178 points and remaining in that 5th spot. At number 4, we have the Prairie View A&M University Panthers. Improved to 5-2, 4-0 at the top of the Western Division, but right behind them, as you see, is Texas Southern at 3-1. So a lot of work ahead Prairie View to see if they can represent. But they continue to win, and all 4 of those wins are in the Western Division. So not only do they have a lead, they have the head-to-head tiebreaker, which includes against Texas Southern University. Have one more game left in terms of the West Division, and they can wrap up the tiebreakers if they can get it done against Pine Bluff. That is a home game, so it'll be fascinating to see what that looks like. But they sit at 184 points, number 4 in the top 4. Bringing us to number 3, where we stay in the SWAC, but we head to the East with the Alabama State Hornets, 4-2, 2-1, one first place votes, 200 with a classic game. I deemed it before it was played to see if it would live up to it, the game of the decade in terms of a regular season matchup. Some people thought true of that in terms of how it played up and echoed that. A couple of other games out there in terms of, if not the top one, certainly top 3. But fascinating to see what that looks like. But they're in at number 3, and they have a big Magic City Classic matchup against Alabama A&M. So that's a top 10 matchup when you have 3 versus 9. At number 2, we have North Carolina Central, the Eagles, sit at 5-2, 3 first place votes, 214 points. And they're in the 2nd spot, meaning what everybody knows currently, the number 1 team. Jackson State Tigers are 5-1, 3-0, 8 first place votes. What I like people to think about Jackson State is this number 1 ranking goes back 14 weeks to week number 10 last year when they grabbed the number 1 spot and have not relinquished it since, I should say. Fascinating when you think about the Tigers or what they're getting done. I know they're squarely focused on this year, but as media folks, I think it's always good to have the historical perspective that they are on some momentum in terms of 14 straight weeks holding the number 1 spot. With that being said, let me go to you, Drew. What are your thoughts in terms of the top 7 in week number 8?
It's kind of hard to have thoughts, Dr. Cavil, when nobody plays. So I'm just saying, the only 2 teams that played were the 2 Texas teams last week. Although Prairie View did have a conference matchup against Southern, Texas Southern VUL, come on now. There's nothing to take away from the game against VUL. There's nothing good, bad, or ugly. The only thing that can happen when you look at the game like VUL is if you somehow lose that game. Other than that, there's nothing to put onto that game. Except mamas and daddies got to see those 2s and 3s get a lot more playing time than they would on any other day outside of special teams. So like you say, the big thing, Dr. Cavil, is Prairie View. All 4 of their wins have been on the west side, so they sit in a good spot. Should be getting, it would have to be a 3-way tie because they already own the head-to-head tiebreaker against Texas Southern because of the head-to-head victory. And Alabama State, Alabama A&M, I'll double check this, but I believe in that Magic City Classic, kind of like the Labor Day Classic. The coach that is the new coach has had a lot of success in that classic, in their first time in that classic.
That's right.
So that's something that's going to favor a Sam Shade. But, and I know we're jumping ahead, E-Rob as a coach and player is 7-1 in the Magic City Classic. And he reminds people he has not lost since he was a freshman at Alabama State. So that's going to be a real intriguing thing that we need to look at. But I can't argue anything on this poll. I still thought Alabama State should be number 2, but hell, I have no new data. So my argument today is my same argument that I had last week. Let somebody else have the mic now.
Good stuff. Brian, your thoughts in terms of the top 7?
Hey, memo to our lone wolf who keeps voting for Alabama State. You had a week to correct yourself. You still voted them number 1. Shame on you. Whoever you are, shame on you. That's all I got to say. And let me add.
Protest vote.
Yes, that's a protest vote, but shame on you for doing that to the polls. Come on now. Is it true that Prairie View, those 4 wins you guys mentioned are all against the West? Also, none of them are at home. Is that correct?
Correct.
I think, yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's all I can say. Wow. 4.
So your last
2 true road victories in Houston against Texas Southern, against Baton Rouge, you just saw and heard about yesterday, and then one of them was against Grambling in terms of
State Fair.
They had a neutral site in State Fair Classic 100-year anniversary that everybody knows by now. And the other one was against the Braves, also a road victory. So 3 road wins, true road wins of those out of the 4.
Yeah, advantage Prairie View A&M coming down the stretch, right?
You would think so.
Yeah.
You would think so. With that being said, let me go to you, Charles. What are your thoughts on the top 7?
What jumps out at me is we are in the 3rd week of October, and Delaware State and Texas Southern are in the top 7. That just jumped out at me. Both teams over 500. So that's a huge thing to kind of take a look at. We're in that part of the season where we're going to get a head scratcher game over the next few weeks without fail. It always happens, and you're just wondering what game is it going to be. You got some great games coming up. Jackson State can talk noise to a lot of teams in HBCU football, but they can't do it with Grambling. And Grambling has always historically, even when they're not having a good year, they kept posed a thorn in Jackson State's side for whatever reason. So it'll be interesting. But I know Jackson State will be represented very well out in Las Vegas this upcoming week. Everybody who I talked to in the barbershop this past week, they're asking where you staying out in Vegas. I had to let them know I'll be in Houston. So it'll be very interesting with regards to watching what Jackson State does over the next couple of weeks, next few weeks, and can they make a statement to the rest of the SWAC with regards to how they play going down the stretch. Another big statement game coming up November 1 is Alabama State coming to Prairie View. People can talk noise about down SWAC West, down SWAC. You know what? Prairie View has a very great opportunity to put out another statement in a couple of weeks. So in terms of playing Alabama State. So I'm looking forward to that game when it does come up. But it's going to be some fun football over the next few weeks. And then we got playoff football in the MEAC. That's going to be fun.
Yes, good points made. As I said, in perfect way to get into our next segment where we'll talk about some key matchups, particularly the top 7. But with that being said, also for this segment, it is interesting. Essentially, the magic number for Prairie View is 3 wins. They have to find a way to get 3 of the last 4, and 3 of those last 4, as Brian just alluded to, are at home. So if they can just take care of home business, they're in position. But they have a lot to live for. Drew kind of thought about this a little bit, that if you do see the West as easier, a certain schedule, whether that's the case or not, if Prairie View can find a way to go undefeated, and something like a stumbling block happens to Jackson State.
Yeah.
Playing Grambling, as you said, does it. While Jackson State will certainly be favored, the actual game will head to Prairie View. So there's some things to think about there. But Texas Southern is in the weeds there, looking out. If Prairie View stumbles twice and they can win out, then they are actually in position to play for a championship game. It's a little tough for Alcorn State and Southern. They have a matchup when you think about they still got to play Texas Southern, so interesting in there. But with Grambling, with 2 losses, they actually have head-to-head losses against Prairie View and Southern. So actually 3 games back in terms of Prairie View and 2 games back in terms of Texas Southern. So those are some things. And we just talked about Southern and Alcorn losing to Prairie View. And so they're essentially 4 games back, which means that you need a total collapse of Prairie View for them to find a way to get back in the mix in terms of even head-to-head, or certainly even 3-way tie. On the other side, though, of the East, fascinating, kind of alluded, we're thinking about Alabama State, but Bethune-Cookman quietly at 2-1. Just like FAMU, they haven't played Jackson State either. So those are some games to keep your head up. Jackson State goes to FAMU, so interesting to see, at least for talking points, what that looks like. Certainly, we know who's driving the ship at this point, but fascinating. And then we get a chance to start talking about the MEAC in the next segment. We have some key matchups in the MEAC to start things off, including the top 7. We'll talk more about that after this last break and come back on the other side and do just that.
At AutoMasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
ESPN Events presents Red Lobster Band of the Year, a title reserved for elite HBCU marching bands. A season-long competition that culminates in Atlanta on Friday, December 12th. Drum majors, percussion, drill, auxiliaries, musicality. All aspects will be examined by the toughest judges in the world of college bands. 4 will qualify for the big stage, where national champions will be crowned. Follow us on social media for rankings updates throughout the season. And join us in Atlanta on December 12th. For event and ticket information, visit bandoftheyear.com.
Hello, my name is Trevon Jones, a tight end at Prairie View A&M University Panthers football team. When me and my family and teammates are out in Las Vegas, we like to dine at Chick-fil-A, located on 9830 West Flamingo Road. I encourage you to do the same, and for good food and a fantastic dining experience. The owner and operator, Ron Peterson, is a graduate of Prairie View A&M and will be excited to see you as a guest. Go Panthers, go Swag. Hey, Emo Chicken.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop, Brian, and Wolford. With that being said, let's see if we can pull up some of these matchups. Are we able to pull that up, or are we out with AD Drew? Good. Let's pull those up. And we just kind of alluded to the first one there in terms of that break. And Charles kind of gave us a big tease talking about HBCU Las Vegas Classic, where you have a top 10 matchup. You have Jackson State coming in, representing the East as their number 1 overall. That's still in week 8 in terms of that ranking. They will be facing Grambling State, the G-Men, that just snuck in the top 10 receiving votes after a big victory. So they're at least feeling good going in this game. The Grambling State Tigers sit at number 10, essentially. 4-3, 1-2, versus the number 1 Jackson State Tigers that sit at 5-1, 3-0. Fascinating in terms of historically what this looks like. Jackson State had a week off. Can they get back into it? I'm going to stick with you, Charles. You kind of touched on this a little bit. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Well, obviously, I think Jackson State is a better team, and that running game is one that holds up on the road. It should be a fun, exciting contest over there in Las Vegas, but I expect Jackson State to come out and do what they do week in, week out. They cut your legs off with regards to not allowing you to run the football, number one, and then they can pin their ears back and come after the quarterback. So that's pretty much, the story week in, week out with regards to Jackson State. So I expect Jackson State to go in and get a very dominant victory against Grambling. Although that being said, Grambling has always been a rock in the shoe.
Maybe they can make sure they get that rock out of the shoe this weekend. Brian, let me ask you from this perspective, what does Grambling have to do to find a way to upset Jackson State that has hold that number 1 ranking, and from our ranking perspective, for 14 straight weeks, going back to last year?
Hope that the Jackson State players get, busy hanging around the Vegas lights and running around late at night in the afternoon and in the early evening, caught up in the Vegas flu, as they like to say. No, ball control. I think, and it always sounds cliche, but it's true. Can you keep the more time you can spend with the ball in your hands, the less time Jacoby and Morgan and Jackson State has it. Now, the challenge with that is that Jackson State defense. They get the memo. They know their job is to get that other team off the field so that Jacoby and the offense can do what they do. So that's going to be the challenge. But I like, Trey Bradford, who we just mentioned, gave the helmet sticker to. If Grambling's rushing attack can be challenging, I'm going to use that word. Can they be challenging for Jackson State? And then T-set, can Savion T-set be error-free? It always sounds cliche, but in order to beat the champ, you have to play a perfect game, and you have to be mistake-free. You got to control the clock. That's the beautiful thing about football. The elements of winning, they never change. They never change. So if Grambling State can, and then also special teams. Can special teams be special? So give me all the cliches, put them all in a nice basket, and that's how Grambling State's going to have to win.
Great comments. Drew, let me ask you from this perspective, since everybody is seeing the big Goliath as Jackson State University, the Tigers sitting at number 1, rightfully so, I should add, is how long can Grambling keep this a game?
Look at the rushing attempts. If Grambling has over 50 rushing attempts in this particular game, that does not bode well for the Jackson State defense. And Charles will tell you, Jackson State's defense prides itself on taking away the run game and forcing their opponents to pass. So if Grambling has over 50 attempts as a team on the ground, that means that Grambling must be having some type of success, which means that Jackson State's defense is not doing what it wants to do, which is stop the run, force you to pass, and let those cornerbacks and safeties take advantage of their closing speed on those receivers. So that, I think that is going to be the one thing that you need to look at is rushing attempts. And although Brian ate a lot of everything that was on my plate that I was going to discuss, I agree with him. T-set, Xavier T-set. Remember, 2 weeks ago he was in a walking boot. Yesterday did not have a stellar game. 18 of 29, 148, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. So does T-set come to play? Can T-set physically come to play and help keep Grambling in the game? Because in addition to what Bradford is going to get on the ground, and he's going to get his. He's going to some. T-Set is going to have to be able to provide those off-schedule plays to keep drives going for Grambling in order for Grambling to have a chance to beat Jackson State.
Good stuff. Let's get in this next matchup, which switches us to the MEAC, which we've been waiting all season to get to conference games. Well, it's finally here in terms of that matchup, which is, as you see, and this should be 2 versus 7. Delaware State Hornets and North Carolina Central's the Eagles. Delaware State, fascinating to see what it looks like in this matchup. Everybody kind of gets a smile to themselves. Is this the new Delaware State team, or will Central really make a big statement going into MEAC play? Central has been that team that seems to find a way to stub its toe. Will they do it out the gate, or will they get it done? Let me go to you, Brian. What are your thoughts in terms of this matchup, Hornets versus the Eagles, a true top 7 matchup, which should be number 2 versus number 7?
This is an exciting game for Delaware State. I mean, here's your chance, and I got to feel like you're on a bye, and this is the chance that Deshaun Jackson gets a chance to really sell his team on that word belief. Can you get these young men to believe that you can win the MEAC? Because it starts here. I'm like, you don't get a chance to work into it. It's like, hey, we have shown that we are one of the best rushing teams in FCS football. Now, do you believe you can go stop this team? And you got to go on the road to be the champ. You got to beat the champs. And this is the Central team that has been the standard in the MEAC, either first or second over the last 4 years. Can't ask for a better matchup. I'm excited. I'm not gonna say I'm just gonna hold it. I'm gonna hold it. I'm excited about this game though.
I am as well. Drew, what are your thoughts in terms of this top 7 matchup, Hornets versus Eagle? A lot on the line, coming right out of the gate, and you just don't have a lot of room in the MEAC for error.
Yeah, I find this interesting. There are only 2 backs in the MEAC currently who are averaging over 100 yards per game. They will be going heads up in this game. Chris Mosley at 105.7, and the leader, Marquise Gillis of Delaware State at 107.7. Wow, that would be the storyline normally that you would go with. But when you take a deeper look, not only does Delaware State have the number 1 rusher in the MEAC, they have the number 3 rusher in the MEAC, James Jones, 74.6 yards, and Caden Bennett at 50.4 yards per game. So it's gonna come real simple. Let me forewarn everybody now. This may be a 3-yard and a cloud of dust game, a slow game, a slobber knocker, old school 1970s type football game, but because of the breakaway speeds that these backs have, you may get some high scoring. It just won't be through the air. Everybody expect a quick game. I don't know who's carrying this game as far as networks right now, but expect this to be a quick game with the way both these teams like to run the ball.
Yes, I can give you an update. That is an ESPN Plus game in terms of Central being the home team. It will slate it as a 12 o'clock kickoff in terms of that matchup. Charles, Dr. Israel Carey says the winner of this game will head to the Celebration Bowl.
Oh,
a little early, but certainly understand his points. And I will say it this way. If that happens to be the case, and the opponent, I'm sure that he's thinking from the SWAC will be Jackson State. It'll be a juicy matchup, a lot of storylines in terms of what took place, and that what many people really are saying the game of the century, when you include postseason, was that game that featured Jackson State and Central, that Central end up winning in overtime. I like to look at it, if that's the case, you're talking about arguably the 2 best young coaches, recent coaches in the game, that would be lined up against each other, which would be more enticing to me if that happens to be the matchup. Way too fast, way too much. But in terms of this matchup of how important it is, top 7 matchup, Delaware State Hornets gets a chance to really make a statement, open it up. Eagles get to, on the other half, get to make a statement that says, no, we're not slipping up this year. What are your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, I don't see North Carolina Central slipping up at home. That being said, I think AD and Brian touched on it in terms of Delaware State's rushing game. I mean, when you talk about 3 of the top 6 rushers in the MEAC are Delaware State guys, it is incumbent on them to control the clock, because I don't think they have the ability to stop Walker Harris in the way that North Carolina Central can put points up. So that therein lies the rub right there. Can Delaware State get some stops against this tough North Carolina Central offense? And that being said, I do not think so. But, I think North Carolina Central gets this one, and they get it by a couple of touchdowns.
Well, I'll tell you this, as we move back to Alabama State and Magic City Classic as another top 10 matchup we got to talk about. The other thing, way too much, too fast. Think about this. You talk about North Carolina Central. They get a chance. We always talk about it on the SWAC side, but they get a chance on the MEAC side to start it in Atlanta and end in Atlanta.
Sure do.
And if it happens to be against Jackson State, if they get that victory, think about 3 of the, well, really 4 of the brands they would have had to take him down to get there. That would have been Southern to start things off. They had a midseason game against FAMU. Obviously, that means they would have had to beaten South Carolina State. And to close it out, if it's Jackson State, they would have beaten Jackson State. You talking about a statement for Coach. I know he's fussing at me right now in terms of Delaware State. Hey, man, that's what we do on the media side.
I can hear him cussing right now.
Dr. Cavil. Dr. Cavil, you must have been reading my notes. I was just going to say the way too early prediction for BIAC play would be Central winning the BIAC and becoming the first team to start the season in Atlanta and end the season in Atlanta, which would be fitting considering this is the 10th year anniversary of the Cricket Celebration Bowl. So it'd be fitting to have that historical context on top of it. Should it happen? But we got to play Saturday first before we even start getting into that way too early stuff.
Wow, Central chasing the ghost of North Carolina A&T. Interesting.
Yes.
But A&T never started and finished.
That's tasty. Right. That's tasty, though.
That is a lot of tasty. And that is Coach Trey Oliver, for those that don't know. And Joshua Sims Sr., that's some free points for HBCU Nightly tonight. With that being said, let's get into that Magic City Classic. That's a juicy one, particularly not just for those in the state of Alabama. Go back to that second slide, I think it was, as I had them number 2, but it should be actually number 3 versus number 9 with Alabama A&M outside of the top 7. So you have Alabama State Hornets at 4-2, 2-1, versus Alabama A&M Bulldogs sitting at 4-3, 1-2. I know we're running up on time, so we won't get a lot of time to talk about it. We'll do more of a deeper dive on Thursday. But let me go to Brian in case we don't get him for Thursday back in here, even though we will try to haze him and see if he will back up in terms of doing the show on Thursday. We'll put him on the spot now. With that being said, Magic City Classic, what are your thoughts in terms of this matchup?
Over or under 67,500. That's where I want to see what the attendance. Want to go over 60? Okay, Drew's giving a thumbs up. All right. Exciting ball game. What was that stat that somebody, was it Drew or you, Doc, had given about first-year head coaches in this series?
That was me. I have to actually pull the numbers, but I just remember looking at that somewhere that the first-year coach tends to win the Magic City Classic.
Labor Day Classic is another one that goes by. Whenever they switch coaches, that first-year coach really has their hands up in terms of getting that victory. So interesting how those things go. But go ahead, Brian.
I'm excited from the quarterback perspective. Quad Brown has had some amazing games this season, put up some great stats. Of course, we know that Andrew Body is going to bring his best. So I think offensively, we're in for a good game. I mean, a shootout. Take the over 35 by the winning team. I think this is going to be an outstanding game.
Yeah.
I look forward to this contest. I want to see which quarterback can play mistake free. And if the Alabama A&M run defense can find a way to slow down Alabama State's rushing offense, that may be where your key to somebody's success will lie.
Good stuff. Go ahead, Charles.
No, I think Brian hit the nail on the head. I expect for this one to be a shootout, especially if you kind of get a healthy Quad Brown. I think that'll make for a very interesting contest. What I think, you're looking at somewhere between both of these teams, somewhere 75, 80 points between both of them.
Drew, any additional things on this matchup you want to add?
I need Alabama State to win this game. I need Jackson State to win the previous game, because we need to set up a circle the calendar day
matchup,
on November 1, because should Alabama State win, not only does that set them up, that keeps them in the race, but that sets up an all-important matchup with Prairie View. And I know we're going to be talking about Prairie View down the line, where not only could that determine what happens in the West, but that Prairie View Alabama State could potentially go home field advantage in the SWAC championship game and November 1, because should Florida A&M win this weekend against Southern, which right now it would be a nobody cares game, but it sets up that potential matchup with Jackson State. And Jackson State beats Florida A&M. They have all but sewn up the East at that point. But should Florida A&M pull off the upset, now we've got a lot of different storylines that we're going to be looking at in the month of November, fellas. So we need Alabama State to win and Jackson State to win so that we can have something to talk about next week.
And if they don't, we'll still have something to talk about.
Drew
is mad. Yeah, he got a lot to talk about, but based on it not fitting the scenario and what the heck happened. With that being said, let's just run through these last one. I'll list them as games to watch. We will break them down because where we are with the clock. Prairie View A&M comes in 5. They're Lincoln, California, the Oaks. Looks like they've been able to get back on the field. 3rd straight week that they're playing a SWAC team for homecoming. Should be interesting to see what the score will be in terms of this game compared to the other ones. Keep it going to number 5. South Carolina State gets into play. They're on the road. Norfolk State Spartans, 1-6. Been struggling, but playing some close games. There's some questions that some people have the Bulldogs. Coach Vic has made a change in terms of defensive coordinator. Maybe we'll see if that works out in any in this matchup. Let's go to number 6, which is off this week, Texas Southern. So we're going to slide in terms of talking to Delaware State already, as they had that matchup against North Carolina Central. We'll slide to number 8, which is an intriguing game. One that Drew says the Bethune Wildcats need to win. They're at home. They keep their race in terms of chasing Jackson State, putting them in position with the one loss already. Be interesting to see what this looks at. Pine Bluff would like to mix it up. Been kind of up and down in terms of what it looks like in that matchup. And then the last one in the MEAC is Morgan State Bears versus the Howard Bison. Bison was the only team out of the MEAC that played last week. They lost on the road at Tennessee State for homecoming. Continue to have a championship level defense, if you would, for Bison, but can't get it done in terms of offensively. So look for this to be low scoring, as Morgan State Bears have had trouble on the offensive side of the ball. But somebody's going to get a conference victory coming out of this and feeling good. So we'll see what that looks like in this matchup. Next one is the SWAC contest, the Battle of Mississippi. That does not include Jackson State. Both of these teams, as we just alluded to, played Lincoln of California, with the Braves winning 49-42, Delta Devils. So interesting what this looks like. Devils come in at 1-5 in terms of the race there, 0-2, while the Braves are 0-3, 1-5 overall. Obviously, while this is a rivalry game, they come in for different divisions. So we get a chance to look at the East. Can they continue to dominate? And will Delta Devils get a statement, which will really put the Braves on the ledge? Moving to the next one.
This may be somebody's only conference win, everybody.
That's true. Very true. Then you have Southern Jaguars against FAMU Rattlers. This was a game that a lot of folks would get excited about the last 4 years. I'm not sure how excited people are from this, but FAMU got off the mat, got a victory, so they're continuing to do that. Southern Jaguars are struggling, so it'll be a little bit fascinating to see what that looks like in terms of that matchup. Brian will be on the call there. Charles, as he can't get to Las Vegas, he'll be on the call at Prairie View. So look out for SWAC TV. We have some updates, and we'll let you know in terms of where we'll be in a couple of different places to see what that looks like. So I'll reach out you all and make sure we get that done with Roy leading the way. Let's close it up there. Great big weekend. Before we do the close, I will go around and just have any final thoughts, starting with you, Brian. Any final thoughts this past weekend or going into next weekend? What are you thinking about?
No final thoughts, really. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited, and I have still hope and optimism. I might be the only one in Rattler Nation, but I have hope and optimism. So that's what I'm bringing. My glass half full, even if it's just a little bit of drink in it, my glass is half full.
Drinking is
somebody that finally has a little optimism where the team is maybe a little struggling. Hey, you still get a chance to go beat up on the Jaguars. That should be fun. Drew?
That's what I'm looking forward to. People saying, you know what, hold on, this is interesting. People were saying we struggled against the worst team in the SWAC. And I kept saying, we go to Southern next week.
He's like, not so fast.
Sorry, Southern fans. Sorry.
Unfortunately, a lot of them would be like, no, that's a true statement. They don't even want to fight back right now. Drew?
I don't know if anybody actually looked at the schedule, but we have all 12 SWAC teams facing off each other in conference play next week. We have only 5
5 of Southern is open. And Prairie View has the homecoming Lincoln.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're correct. You get all that. Yep.
Yeah,
but
you're
the
correct.
MEAC got all 3. Go ahead.
Yeah, the BAC has all 3 facing each other. So the fact that we could actually say BAC conference play has to excite you just a little bit. All this conjecture, all this we pay all the paycheck games and beating the little sisters of the poor and the Division II opponents. Now we really get to see what these BAC teams are truly made out of as they go heads up. And as they say, it's conference play, throw the records out the window. So here's my thing. Whose record are we going to come in and then talk about on next Sunday's show? Delaware State, North Carolina Central. And we're going to be talking about, we're going to go back and break their schedule down like they didn't play anybody. They didn't play who they needed to get prepared. Because that's going to be part of our conversation next Sunday for one of those 2 teams.
Good stuff. True. Charles, final thought?
Yeah, final thought. MEAC playoff football. Looking forward to that. Jackson State fans, leave some money so that y'all can take a couple party buses down to Tallahassee because that was going to be a fun one. So that's just going to be huge. So, but I'm looking forward to the next few weeks. It's going to be some fun football to watch. Good points made. I want to say thank you for listening inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, Mike Washington on assignment, where we have A.D. Drew and Brian Fulford doing the FAMU wave with the cap. I love it. Slow motion, good pictorial. Drew representing Morehouse, and certainly Charles is going to do what he does with the Jackson State University Tigers. I love 1400 Lynch Street. All those good sayings. I've learned it like the back of my head. It's good to me. With that being said, then again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Ville's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock.
and on Sundays at 9 a.m. We gave you bonus time today, so we appreciate you, particularly these guys, for staying with me. Let me do a shout out to the Rattlers too. Brian Fulford, homecoming. You all do it right as well, and were good to me last year when I came with the Texas Southern Tigers. Drew, I got to find a way to Morehouse. Atlanta is always good to me, and you represent that too. So just saying, shout out to y'all. Charles, go ahead.
Yeah, no, great job, FAMU, with the unveiling of the statue of Dr. Humphreys. That was a classic move. I love that.
Oh, yeah, already. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Threads, Facebook, and Instagram, DrKenyattacavil. Great point you made there, Charles. Appreciate you making sure you got that in there. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Facebook, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. As you know, dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Brian?
Lecture.
Drew?
Dismissed.